Okay, so we have our session with United States. This is Professor Dr Shatzel from the Oregon University Center. But please, you explain. You know more about this than I do.
Yeah, certainly. Well, good morning. Well, I guess good evening wherever you are. I'm Dr. Shatzel. I'm a associate professor of hematology at the Oregon Health and Science University in Portland, Oregon. And one of my main research focuses is MPNs, and I run our MPN clinical trial program here in Oregon. And I'm happy to present to you a little bit about our program and the drugs that we have been working with that we're excited about recently. And we'll leave a little bit of time for questions at the end. But let me know when you're ready to get started, and I'll try and share my slide deck.
We are ready.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah. Tell me first a question. How many MPN patients do you have in your hospital?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I would put it into two categories. There are people we see treated on standard of care, so we're just treating them with the best care we have available that is approved by the federal government in America, the FDA. We probably have 50 each of MPN.
Recording in progress.
I would say we also have a pretty big clinical trial program, so these are patients who we're treating with therapies that are not yet approved, but we think will be better, or we hope will be better than the standard. And we probably have another 20 patients on clinical trials at any one time. They're always coming and going. So I think more than 100 at our center.
That's a lot. That's big. Anyway, I'm sorry I interrupted you. Please go ahead with your presentation.
Certainly. All right.
Okay. We can see it.
Nice. Excellent. Let me activate a good slideshow. Okay, does that look like a good view on your end? Do you see the full screen?
Yes, it's perfect.
Excellent. Well, let's get started. My team is on the call with me, and I'm not sure if they're in the general audience or the presenter view, but they made the slide for me. Thank you. Hopefully with me we have Lisa, who is our research nurse, and she helps me enroll all the patients, and Emma, who runs the program and does all the negotiations with the companies for contracts and oversees all the recruitment of patients. But as I said, I'm an associate professor here. I also work in biomedical engineering, and some of our work has been in drug development. I've been doing hematology for 10 years. In the States, we call it classical hematology. So that means we focus on, I don't focus on acute blood cancer, so I don't do acute leukemia or lymphoma. I do MPNs and other blood diseases like bleeding and clotting. I am running our classical hematology program here. For many years, I was the only doctor opening trials. We now have another physician who's a colleague of mine opening one study. So we have 8 trials open right now, trying to open 6 more. We like to stay busy. So as you'll see, I have a map on the next slide, but we're the only academic center in our state. America is broken up into 50 states, and each state kind of functions independently for healthcare. Our next closest medical center that has a medical school is the University of Washington. And then after that, it's San Francisco. So it's like 3 to 6 hour drive outside of us. So most patients in Oregon come to see us, or anyone who needs specialized care. So we serve a very large region west of the west coast of the United States. We do have apparatuses in to try and connect people with innovative cancer trials and support giving patients who live at a distance the opportunity to participate in trials. That's very important to us. So our clinical research management group has built these apparatuses to kind of assist with this. We also have independent staff in our university that does trial design. Some investigators write their own trials. We're writing a few right now. And we have staff who does, their whole job is activation. The regulations in the state about the documentation needed for studies is very high, so there's a lot of people whose only job it is to make sure that we're compliant with regulatory. And then we have a lot of administrative staff. And the goal always is to get the most cutting edge therapies for patients available, so if they want to participate in that research, they can. So this is a map of the US. You see Oregon, we're all the way to the left, right here. This is my university, the dark blue dot here. We have osteopathic school as well in Oregon, although they're not doing any clinical trials to my knowledge. So this is it for the whole state here. There's a few more in Washington and San Francisco. So we see patients from this huge kind of catchment area. So we have a lot of patients who come see us. Little bit about our cancer center. We see about 6,000 patients a year, and as a whole, all types of diseases, not just blood cancers. There's about 1,400 research projects going on, about 400 clinical trials at any time. So we have full support services for our patients. We have nurses whose specific aim is to help patients navigate system. Healthcare is complex, I'm sure in every country. But we also have dietitians, palliative care specialists, social workers. We do offer some housing for patients on staff. We have people whose whole job is to help educate patients, and we have a lot of supportive medicine services like acupuncture and yoga. Patients really benefit from those things in my experience. So in America, the federal government has a National Cancer Institute, their NCI, and they've recognized our center with the highest distinction in research excellence. We also have a center in early detection of cancer. It's kind of interesting, somewhat apt to MPN patients, but their focus is finding blood disorders and other cancers at a very early point, even before other, like the current available therapy technologies can identify them, with the concept that we can intervene very early. And their goal is to actually just do a single blood test that will find cancers very early. It's an ambitious goal, but I mean, they put a lot of effort into it. And we're running, the Cancer Center also runs its own SMART trial, which is their precision medicine trial. But we do have a unique set of trials here where they measure everything we can in patients, blood cancers and other cancers, and try and make targeted treatments for them. Kind of an innovative thing the Cancer Center is doing. The Cancer Center here is run by Brian Drucker. He is a very famous scientist for actually sort of in one of the companion MPNs, he focused on chronic myelogenous leukemia. And he was the person who developed the first targeted treatment for a blood disorder. He developed Gleevec or imatinib, and it was very transformative. It turned the disease that was once really fatal into essentially a disease where people live a full life. So it's an honor to work with him, and he's a very, as you can imagine, very smart man. He's helped me a lot in my career. And he recently got a philanthropic donation from the owner of Nike Sports for $2 billion. So they're going to use that money to build the cancer center here, even with the to have an even larger footprint than it already does. And I think that'll be an amazing thing because we'll be able to really help those patients who are living at quite a distance from our center. So his hope is every patient has access to clinical trials and all the resources that we have here. But let's talk a little bit about MPNs, and then we'll go into some details of some of the studies that have been successful here. So our program lives within the blood cancer unit at our hospital. So the coordinators who run the program also oversee trials in acute leukemia and myelodysplastic syndrome. There's 12 providers in total and 22 members on our research team. Very fast-paced team. So we do both in the hospital clinical trials and in the clinic. And so you have to be nimble to do both. We do all phases of trials. So we do phase 1, 2, and 3. And we'll do all stages of blood diseases. So just diagnosed to patients who've been on treatment for a long time. We also open government-funded trials, so trials that have been supported by the National Institute of Health in America, or specifically the National Cancer Institute. We also do cooperative group trials like NCTN or the National Clinical Trials Network. And we also do our own trials. So a lot of our physicians, myself included, write our own clinical trials. That's called investigator-initiated trials. And that involves collaborating with the drug company to get the drug and let them perhaps fund some of your work. You also have to seek funding for such things because nothing is free in any country. So here's our current portfolio for MPNs. And we'll go through some of this stuff. I think probably one of the most exciting drugs that we were privileged to be part of is rusfertide, the hepcidin mimetic. And for people with polycythemia vera, rusfertide really has been was recently shown to be very effective at preventing phlebotomy. And I have some of that data on the following slides. We presented that at the U.S. Cancer Society, ASCO, last year after the study was very positive. We are also working with Merck on the LSD1 inhibitor, bomadedostat oral therapy. We have both their PV and ET study open. And the ET study is in pretty late development. So it's a late phase 3 study, large international study. We're working with Disc Medicine on 2 projects that are kind of work similarly to rusfertide and PV, and they're also studying it in myelofibrosis. And we are working on some novel JAK inhibitors with Insight. All right, let's take a look for a little bit about the recent Verify study in rusfertide. So this is the study arm as it was designed. So patients who enrolled on this study had PV. They could be on any therapy already or no therapy. The only thing to enter the study, they had to have a pretty high phlebotomy burden. So the study had a cutoff of requiring 3 phlebotomies in the preceding months. It's an injection. It's given once a week. Patients can give it to themselves at home. They don't need to come to the clinic for it. In the beginning part of the study, patients were either getting the rusfertide or a placebo injection. And they call that part 1A, went for 32 weeks. And that's the part that part is all done. And they showed that at ASCO. And then after that, everybody got on the study drug. And that design is really helpful because when I was enrolling patients, I think that's what convinced them to do it. I think when you tell them, like, you definitely will eventually get this drug for sure, they're more likely to enroll in the study. Some of the studies where it's just placebo or drug and patients may never get it it's kind of a gamble for them. So I appreciate the way they designed this study. So currently everybody is on the part where they're all on drug. And that part is going forward, and the company continues to accumulate data, and their plan is to file this to get approved with the US federal agencies, but also internationally. Here's the study for Masco. I made it up there. I took this from the audience. If these first three people had gotten sick, I could have been up there, but they were all there. They did okay. Here's some of the data that they presented at this talk. This is what they call the efficacy data. So how effective the drug was in shutting down that need for phlebotomy. So we say how effective it was as a cytoreducer, or how effective it was at preventing patients from needing to get a phlebotomy. So it turned out it was very effective. About 72% in the rusfertide group did not need a phlebotomy at all during the study period, and 21 in the placebo group. So that finding was pretty striking. And you have to remember, this is the very beginning of the starting the drug when people were ramping it up. So I think if people stay on it longer, that number will likely go higher. We'll find out soon as they get more data. So here is a graphic of the hematocrit. For people with polycythemia vera, we like to keep the hematocrit low, under 45%, and the reason is studies have shown that number protects them the best from blood clots. So indeed, the rusfertide group, they did not increase their hematocrit. It stayed nice and stable and flat, and the group on placebo, their hematocrit went up quite a bit, as it does in PV. And you see, when they started the rusfertide later, it went down. So it seemed very effective. It was a good cytoreducer in that regard. And then, so that was what the study called its primary endpoint, or the main thing it was trying to show. But here is the secondary endpoint. So, and I think this is very important. They wanted to see how the patients felt on this drug, what their experience was, and if they felt a better quality of life. The hypothesis is that if you don't have to give blood all the time, you will feel more energy. Every time you give blood, you give quite a bit of iron with it. And when you get iron deficient, you can get run down and feel tired. And their hypothesis appeared to be correct. Every time patients would come into the clinic, they would fill out a questionnaire. They also were emailed these questionnaires, filled them out at home on their devices, and just reported how they felt compared to the prior days. And the patients assigned to rusfertide felt much less fatigued. So their fatigue score dropped significantly, whereas those on placebo felt about the same, maybe a little worse. This held true in all the scores they essentially provided for the patients. So there's a couple different scoring systems specifically for patients with MPNs. The one that they use is called MSSAF, or myelofibrosis symptom assessment form. But the group assigned to rusfertide had a much better improvement. And the patients and the doctors did not know what they were on. This was a double-blind study. So patients did not know if they were on placebo or drug. And the fact that they, in that blinded study, still reported feeling a lot better was very impressive. So these are just a bunch of snippets I took from different news articles about the study. And the U.S. media really took off with it. They said it was paradigm shifting, game changer, as it were. So there was a lot of enthusiasm about the study, and we're waiting. The study is still ongoing, so we're waiting to see the final data. And I know this study is designed to go on for several years, so it'll be very exciting to see the long-term data. So it became clear after that this protein, hepcidin, rusfertide is essentially hepcidin, is very effective at lowering red count. So several other companies have looked at targeting that. They're looking, your body makes hepcidin normally, so they're looking at targeting some of the regulators of it. So there's three drugs in development. One from Ono Pharmaceuticals, one from Silence, and one from Disc, all kind of targeting these regulators of hepcidin. So the concept is, if you give this to a patient, they'll like make their own hepcidin level really high. All these studies are kind of in the earlier phases. We're opening the Disc one here, but the concept, and this would be amazing, is an injection a patient could give themselves 4 times a year, something like every 3 months. That's how long these drugs could work, and then they wouldn't need phlebotomy or other drugs. That's the hope. We'll see. I think it'll be several years before these studies are fully read out. I wanted to take a minute to talk about bomadedostat because this study is one of the main studies that we've been enrolling on lately. And bomadedostat is an oral pill, and the goal is to cytoreduce patients. It has a unique mechanism. So in ET, since I've been practicing, really the main oral drug has been Hydrea, and it's good, but I mean, I think we can do better. Hydrea, you still need to change the dose a lot. There are some people who don't really get the effect you're hoping for, and it does still have some side effects. So the company that developed bomadedostat is trying to make a more precise drug. It targets this protein called LSD1 that cells in the bone marrow need to kind of proliferate. And it's actually a very good target for ET. It lowers platelet count really nicely. And the hypothesis is that people will feel better on it, and they'll also have less long-term outcomes like less bone marrow fibrosis. So this is the company's early phase development. They had done sort of a open study with different types of ET. As you know, I'm sure there's different mutations that can cause these high platelet counts, JAK2, CALR, etc. But in all the different phenotypes, it seems to be very good at lowering platelet count. So in this initial study, the drug was pretty potent at lowering platelet count to the normal level for patients. And that was reassuring. This is the data from their early phase study. So they did 62 patients who were treated for 24 weeks, and all of them achieved a platelet count less than 400. That's a little better than Hydrea. I've definitely had some patients where you can't quite get it there. And the rate of thrombotic events was very low, and it only took 10 weeks to get that platelet count in a good space. So it seems like a very good drug for cytoreduction. And the platelet count was very durable, which meant that it stayed in a good level longer. And I have had these patients on Hydrea where their platelet count kind of fluctuates a little. So the study, the company went on to make a randomized trial, which is open now. And this is one we've been enrolling people to, but they're taking patients and then giving them either bomadedostat or the standard of care, Hydrea. It's blinded. We're not sure which one is patients are going to get. Neither the doctors nor the patients know. And then if we will see how the patient's platelet counts do on the two arms and how they feel on the two arms. They'll certainly record all their symptoms. And then this is an extended study, so the patients will keep these drugs ongoing. Next, one of the more interesting things I've been really paying attention to, we don't have this study at our center, so I don't have experience with it, but I recently saw their data presented and it's very exciting. But a company called Insight is making an antibody to CALR. So when you have a CALR mutation, that mutated CALR, it activates your cells. It kind of functions like thrombopoietin and turns them on, and then they grow and make extra platelets. Turns out that you can pull that out of your system with an antibody. And it looks like actually, if you do that, the CALR part of the bone marrow will start to shrink. It's kind of dependent on the CALR constantly feeding it. So they're having some very good responses. So I'm excited to see where that goes. Talk a little bit about how we recruit patients here at OHSU. So my goal always is to be one of the high enrolling sites for the trials we open. In a large study, a high enrolling site is probably anything over 5 patients, and we often aim to get closer to 10. So we're very vigilant in finding patients who could benefit from the studies and calling them and offering it to them if they're interested. So we do review the schedules of patients who are referred, and we have a workflow with the intake group whose job it is to get new patients into the clinic. They help us identify patients as well. And they will send them to us to see if they might be interested. We also have a registry at OHSU. So in the registry, they record patients' diagnoses and keep it in like a large data file over many years. As you know, people with ET and PV, they could be diagnosed many years prior and perhaps have left our center or moved to a different healthcare system, but they may still be interested in a trial. So we still are able to find them and reach out to them. So we search the registry a few times a year to look for people with new or known diagnosis. We also have other centers in Portland where I live, and we keep a good relationship with them to refer patients. And I meet with the team once a week. I have my open office hours, and we review who could potentially be a candidate, and we might call them during those office hours. Here's our numbers of studies that patients we've enrolled. So for the protagonist study, we enrolled 9 patients. And the bomadedostat study, which is listed under Merck, we have 6 patients on right now. We have a few others in startup. This is always changing as we kind of open and close studies, but I'm pretty pleased with the numbers because I have a very good team. We have some resources. So the Cancer Center wants to kind of publicize everything that could be available to patients. So we do keep our active clinical trials public facing, and so patients can actually review them and reach out to us. So this is the link. It's cancertrials.ohsu.edu if you want to see all the studies that we have available. And this is my contact information. My email is just my last name at ohsu.edu. Lisa and Emma are also on the call, and certainly the reason we're able to be so effective in recruiting patients. And if you happen to live in Oregon and are interested in meeting with us, there's their contact info there. So I think with that, I'll stop sharing my slides. And I do have time for questions. I really appreciate you listening to my talk. I have to go right to clinic after this, but we still have about 10-15 minutes, so I can take any questions that your audience may have.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the explanation. It's very interesting. Do you have any problems to recruit patients for clinical trials?
There are some problems. So I think the first problem is if the trial is not designed in a patient-friendly way, they will be less excited. So you remember I said in the rusfertide study, they designed it in a way where patients are either getting placebo or the drug, but then everyone gets the drug. That's a very patient-friendly design because you can tell the patients, hey, it's possible you might not get it initially, but you definitely will get it. The amount of visits needed kind of changes people's appetite too. So we do have some studies where the trial would like them to visit us every 2 weeks. That can be a lot. They usually will pay for your transport, but that turns some people off. We also have some studies that require more than one bone marrow biopsy. I think that's a lot to ask of patients. I like studies that require none, to be honest. But some of the companies want to know how the drugs impact patients at the bone marrow level. The only real way to find that out is to do serial bone marrow biopsies. I think the other thing is how much of the care the trial will pay for. So clinical trials will pretty much universally pay for the part of your healthcare that is involved with the trial. So the visits for the trial and the drug and the labs. But they tend not to pay for things that they feel are you would be getting anyway. So if you're getting labs checked anyway a couple times a year, they won't pay for that. Some of them will. When you have a trial that will pay for everything, that is also a very big selling point to the patients. So I think those are some of the bottlenecks in kind of convincing people. In MPNs recently, I think all the drugs that have been studied have been very exciting and potentially better than the standard. So the drugs themselves have not been the bottleneck. Some of my colleagues in oncology give drugs that are kind of toxic. They can have a lot of side effects and people feel crummy on them, but that just hasn't been the case in MPN. So that thankfully that hasn't really prevented us from doing anything. I think the only other thing I'll mention is some of the regulatory work. Like it's quite a lot of work to really show that you're compliant with all the regulations. You have to make very thorough documents and stuff. That can be a bottleneck, and because of that, sometimes it's slower to activate the studies than I'd hope. It can take more than half a year sometimes to start a trial, from the time you meet with the company to talk about it to the time you actually enroll a patient. That's a long time, but that's the way it is.
That's our beautiful bureaucracy, which is controlling
exactly.
us. Yeah, that's nothing else. Yeah. Now look, we have one physician from Saudi Arabia who works in a very big hospital. We have people from Spanish hospitals here. We are from all different countries, really, either physicians, patients, or representatives from hospitals. So the idea of bringing us all together, and tomorrow we will talk to China.
Wow.
I found a Chinese MPN. So the idea of these meetings is to bring people together but we can try to use the information which you have on the different places. We always say that, it's a disease of very few people, it's a rare disease, etc. But if you go around a little bit in the world, you can see there are thousands and thousands and thousands of patients. So, I would like to know, knowing that we have patients here from all around, we have all these different hospitals. We have from Barcelona Hospital also a big delegation here. So, what do you see? How would you see? How could we collaborate more? In order to information, patient information, results information. All of them they're doing clinical trials. So you have on one side you have a pharmaceutical industry which is also here represented, as you know, always the last two lines here always occupied by Via Pharma people. Working together, getting our goals together, I think, this is something, and I don't talk about the really results of clinical trials. I'm talking about quality of life. All the problems which we are having in quality of life, but we can, every time we can a bit more cure a person, but that doesn't mean that the patient feels better. Very often he feels as bad as he was feeling before. And this is something which we have to settle. And I think there, a close cooperation, because all these actors which we are now here in this room together should be possible. What is your opinion about this? Is that a dream, or do you think we will be able to get it?
No, I think what you described is doable. I think you've already taken the first step, certainly, by activating all this, and this, I'm sure this took a huge amount of time to coordinate. So thank you for doing that and bringing all these people together. I think I would probably answer your question in a couple arenas. I think in the clinical trial piece, and that's an easy one, I'll say that first, there is some international work going on. And so many of the studies I presented, like the rusfertide study and the bomadedostat later phase study, those are international. So the companies are enrolling patients throughout the world. And I think that is extremely important because different sets of people, different healthcare systems, different cultures, they may take a treatment differently. Their response to it, how much they like or dislike it, is just going to be different. And I think the trial should reflect that. I think there is opportunity in cooperative groups. So the oncologists do have a model, Peter, where they get together across universities, either within the one country or multi-countries. There are international cooperative groups, and they make really two things. They make guidance for physicians, and they activate clinical trials. So in the other arenas I play in, like thrombosis, there are international thrombosis societies, and they do make guidelines. And the concept is that this would teach physicians the best practice. And it's good to have that voice of people from all over the world, because practices vary a lot, and it's good to have holistic recommendations. There is opportunities for physician scientists like myself to run trials internationally. And then I think the patient support groups are really important, like you said. I think the patient voice is like the most important thing. And what you said is spot on. I think if we have treatments where people's blood counts look a little better, but they feel crummy, I don't think it's a win, personally. That's one of the reasons I was so pleased with the results of the rusfertide study, because they really included really rigorous patient-reported outcomes. Sometimes trialists will call those PROs, but include a lot of data about how patients felt during the study. And it was really nice to see that patients felt better on the drug than not. And I think that is the reason that the American Cancer Society recognized that trial as one of the best of last year. It was one of their top talks. But I think the last thing I'll say is keep doing the good work you're doing. And we're happy to have you come up in Portland and host an event here if you'd like. Let us know.
Welcome, for sure.
Yeah.
I've never been there, so. Well, thank you very much for being here. I know it has been very early for you. You started at 7 o'clock. Here we're getting to the end of the day. Thank you very much. It was very, very useful. And is there any urgent questions from the audience? I don't think so. Yeah, so thank you very much. All the best, and we will definitely stay in touch.
Yeah, certainly. It's been my pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Is that Angela?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Oops. How do I get my picture? Let's see. Apologies for the delays here. Can you see my picture or just the Zoom screen?
The Zoom.
Okay.
You were here, but it disappeared again.
Let me try this.
No, it's okay.
How about now?
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Angela Valentine.
Good morning to you. Yeah.
Pleased to be here. So Peter, what would you like me to share?
Yeah, well, tell it a bit short. I mean, you have a long story. I know, try to make it as short as possible. We talked a bit longer with Dr. Shatzel as foreseen, but it's very important that we hear, what you have been doing and, how where you're active at this moment.
Yeah, so again, I'm Angela Valentine. I'm an MPN patient. I have ET and JAK2 gene mutation. I was diagnosed when I was 16 by chance. And then I was okay until I was 22. And then I had strokes and heart attack. And then a month later, brain hemorrhage. And now I am, 28 years with it. And it's been quite a journey. Most recently in April, I suffered a widowmaker heart attack where there was a complete blockage of the main artery in my heart requiring stent placement and angiogram. All of this was while I was under the care of oncology teams and on medications. I've been on a list of medications since 1997, anagrelide, interferon, Hydrea, Jakafi. And now I'm on Hydrea and managing well. But at any time, I feel like I could clot again or, the future is unknown, but I'm very excited to be here and share my story and hear from others because like everybody has been saying, I really feel like the patient voice is the most important thing to make progress. So I'm happy to share what other questions that anybody has. I've recently been working with Peter, I should say, for the last several months, and I'm very excited to be able to continue to help advocate for MPN patients and caregivers. I work with Dr. Shatzel. He's one of my oncology team members. I also have a couple other doctors that are at the OHS Unite Cancer Center. And I've been sharing my story online on Instagram, and now most recently, sharing on larger platforms like this. So I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody may have or any specifics.
Sure. Yeah. Well, Angela, she's one of the persons we are cooperating in the United States to start an American MPN organization, the same as we're doing it here in Europe, very much to the patient, patient-related. And she has a heavy story behind herself, so she can really feel, how patients are. So I don't know if anybody of you, if you have some questions, please just.
Hello, Angela. My name is Marwan. I am from Saudi Arabia. So our patient know you. So they saw your YouTube. So you are really doing a very good job in awareness, and really thank you for that. I have a question about the what we called aqua pruritus, which is the itchiness after exposure to water after shower. Some of my patients will say that this is like going in electricity. That's bad. He said, the shower, I'm suffering during shower. Some other patients say nothing, and most of my patients say that they have itchiness after the shower. So, do you have anything to say about? I want to know what if you hear anything about it.
Yeah, I do suffer from that, and that was one of my early symptoms that I never made a connection with my ET until later on when I knew that that was a symptom. And for me, I don't have itchiness in the shower, it's afterwards. And it can start immediately, like when I start toweling off, drying my body. It can feel like pins and needles. It can feel like something crawling in your skin. You can scratch, you can do whatever, and it doesn't seem to cause relief. I remember being a teenager and just having my legs be raw with scratches because I couldn't get relief and just was scratching. So that's very bothersome. So if you have any ideas or tips and tricks on how to improve that, I would love to hear.
So usually the hydroxyurea and the aspirin should help. But during the shower, nothing. You not feel like any needle sensation or any during the shower, even if you stay like 5-10 minutes. Okay, good.
Yeah, it's right after the shower.
Hi, sorry, really nice history. Nice to meet you. I'm Natalia. I'm one of the hematology consultants from Guy's Hospital in London. So I think the itching is one of the most difficult symptoms or one of the difficult symptoms in patients with ET or PV. We do recommend things like antihistamines. We recommend cold shower. Aloe vera apparently works really well because kind of a gel after the shower. But obviously, sometimes, unfortunately, some medication can exacerbate that. So it's kind of playing around with the symptoms. And I mean, no one's want a cold shower in the middle of the winter, but it helps sometimes. But yeah, I guess it's tricky. I was just actually going to ask you, as doctor, how, because you have a really hard history with a lot of complications, and I just wondering how you, because you look quite really positive, really want to show everyone that actually you can have an ish normal life and showing by show people that awareness of this, as my colleague mentioned. So I just want to ask you how you do it. What is, how you manage your day to day, and if you have any techniques that you can share with other patients, for mental support and things like that. It's really impressive history, by the way.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you as well. I think a part of it was that I was born tenacious. I started college when I was 15 and then diagnosed when I was 16. So part of it is just within me. I was also deathly afraid of getting my blood drawn, going to doctor's offices or hospitals. So I faced my fears by learning to be a phlebotomist, and that started my career, which is now 25 plus years in healthcare. I now run my own healthcare consultancy. But I think that the biggest thing is trusting yourself. If you know your body better than anybody else, if it's if something is wrong, then speak on it. And if somebody doesn't hear your words, then go find somebody else. Like, you have to have that empowerment within yourself. Also, it took me many years, but like embracing that I have MPN. When I was diagnosed, it was a blood disorder, and then later on became a cancer. So I didn't really get the benefits of cancer treatment, cancer support, I should say. I got the treatment, but not like the support groups, which is so important. Having the connections on Instagram, on whatever social media, to talk with somebody else, like near you, not near you. That's been like the biggest thing, is the support, and saying like, hey, I randomly get these migraines and I see these little spots. And then you share that with somebody and you hear 20 other people. Oh, well, I have these night sweats and I've been having them since I was 16. It's not hormonal. All these other people here. So I think it's, just believing in yourself, knowing that your voice is so important. Like everybody has said, like more so than pharma, more so than the clinicians. Continuing to push for answers, because nobody wants a cure more than us, and nobody has a tighter deadline than us. So just believing that, like for me, I believe that my advocacy is my purpose, and that my diagnosis helped lead me there.